Okay. I'm gonna try and explain something about DMT that I've been doing DMT for quite a while, but I've never really pushed it too far, and I'm gonna try and explain what it means to, well, I'm going to try and explain what it means to break through on DMT. They call it breakthrough. Breakthrough is basically when, I guess a breakthrough would be anything, I assume, because I've only got my own experience to talk about. A breakthrough would be anything that causes you to leave this world as you know it, psychologically. Which basically means when your perception leaves this world, because physically you're still in this world, but psychologically, emotionally, and maybe spiritually even, it's possible to leave this world. And when you've left this world, see, the terminology makes you feel like a freak just talking about it like this, but when you leave this world, you've had a breakthrough. And I guess people in DMT circles call it a breakthrough because, first of all, in the landscape of DMT on a low dose, first of all there's like the mandala, the sort of, some people call it the chrysanthemum because of the pattern it is, some people call it fractal geometry, people call it all different kind of things, but the best way to sort of visualize it is like a flower of life continually shifting, mandala-like, three-dimensional, sometimes two-dimensional, three-dimensional, maybe even getting into four-dimensional membrane that fills the field of view when you've got your eyes closed. And that's pretty intense, you know, like some of the things that I've seen in that space blow the mind completely. You know, like out of this realm, out of this membrane, this space, so difficult to find the words, could manifest anything as an object in front of your eyes. And you see all these people talking about DMT like in kind of funny, non-spiritual terms, you know, like terms that are just visual, like you're looking at something and that's the way it is. And maybe for me that's the way it was too. And I guess after a while you get used to that landscape. So, like if you were riding a bike and you were a mountain biker, eventually, you know, when you're on the baby slopes, you get used to it. And so, there's no real point, or it seems there's no real benefit to staying on those baby slopes on a mountain bike if you're good enough, or strong enough, or experienced enough, or curious enough to want to go a little bit further up the slopes. And DMT is no different, really. It's pretty much from the very, very first time I ever took it, I knew that I was dealing with something which was some kind of key to another realm, and it forced me to start reading like the Upanishads and the you know, Tibetan Book of the Dead and the Bible and many, many different types of spiritual texts. And you know, I was looking at mindfulness, and life started to you know, like once I became, atheism just went out the window fairly early on with all this experimentation. But there was still room for me to deny what I'd experienced. So in the same way that, like, if you were in a relationship and something happened that was not so good, and at the time, you know, you realised it was your own fault, so you were, you know, you like kind of accepted it. Maybe as you go further down the line away from that experience, the mind is very good at kind of compartmentalizing things and saying, no, maybe it wasn't your fault, maybe it was their fault, or maybe it didn't happen like this, maybe it happened like that. We all do it. Well, you do it with DMT. You experience something and it's so difficult to put into words that the second that you've experienced it, it starts to fade, right? It starts to, your mind starts to try and make sense of it. But I'll give you some of the examples of the smaller dose things, and then it will give you something to contrast what the experience of a high dose is, because it really is like, you can't even compare it. You can't. I don't even know whether, when I get to talking about this breakthrough experience, whether it's actually going to make any sense to human beings at all. I just don't know whether I'm going to be able to put it into words, but I'm going to try, because it's important for people in the West, in South America and in the East and in all different places that people deal with psychedelic compounds, spiritual technologies like sacred plants. They have shamans available that are masters of these realms. They go there again and again and again and again. They know what they're doing, they know what to expect, they know how to create a ritual to kind of focus the experience. They know, I guess they know that in a way people are safe too, because it is physically safe. I don't even know whether it's psychologically unsafe. I just think that it takes a hell of a lot of acceptance to experience something like a DMT breakthrough and not be completely like thrown sideways by it for the rest of your life. No, that's not really fair. That's not really fair. I'm okay. I wouldn't consider myself to be exceptionally mentally strong or special. I guess it just affected me in a profound way. Anyway, I'll try and explain. So some of the lower dose experiences, just off the top of my head, there was one time when I was barreling down a tunnel, some form of a tunnel, it seemed, and the experience would be similar to barreling down a tunnel with one of your eyes closed, because it was going so fast that I felt as if I had to shield my eye against things that might hit it, like this. But with the other eye, what I could see was this mechanical clock with a face built into it, but it wasn't like a clock like anything I've ever seen. It was just clockwork type stuff. A really good artist, who I've never seen a single artist who's managed to capture this as accurately as this one artist that I've seen her work, and I just thought, wow, that's incredible. And I'll just flash the name up. I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but I'll flash her name up when I make the video. She seems to have got the texture of this place as you see it, down pat. It's like clean, super clean Perspex plastic in all different colours is what it would look like if you were looking at the surface of the world. But that world would be fluid, so it looks like super clear hard plastic. Like it would look like, oh, you know what it looks like, that shiny plastic that you might find a plant pot made out of or something, or a kitchen tile. Yeah, kitchen tile, like that. And anyway, so I'm barreling down this tunnel, and there's this clock-like machine mechanism, right? Well, that's one level. The next level was when I opened my eyes once and I looked at my legs and I couldn't tell if my legs were my legs or whether my legs were the sofa, or whether the sofa was the wall, or whether the ceiling was me. A complete dissolution of self, but still low enough that I was in my room. I knew I was in my room, and I knew that it was only going to be 10 minutes until this thing ended. And it wasn't like I was wishing for it to end. I was just shocked. It was Just very, very shocking. And while I was experiencing this dissolution, which feels almost like the soul leaving the body, I realized that I was in a space made of yellow and blue tiles, like a chamber, and coming towards me were white tiles just floating through space. And then as those white tiles came towards me, they sort of bent and rolled down, and as they rolled down they started folding out into ever more complex shapes. And those shapes, as they came with a sound, it was like boom, 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 like that. And every time there was a pulse, these things folded out into a new shape until they became so complex that I couldn't actually take perceiving it anymore. And I opened my eyes, and when I opened my eyes, that's when I realised that I couldn't tell the difference between me and the sofa. At some conceptual level, I had stopped to be a human being in the form that I am now, to my psychological brain. The next time I did, another time I did DMT, this was a powerful experience. It was so powerful that when I tried to open my eyes, because I felt this thing, this change, it's like a shift, it's like the mind gets engulfed by a wave, and as the wave goes through the mind stops to be bound by the same laws that it's bound by here. And so this wave came over me, and I found myself immediately in a silver grey room made of glass. This silver grey room made of glass, had an object in it. And the object, and it was a big room, and the object was orange, and it was made out of mechanical cogs and wheels and interlocking pieces of impossible geometry, like geometry that doesn't make sense, like those pictures that are, like impossible shapes where there's like I can't remember who made it, but it's like this realm is another dimension. It's more dimensions than 3, it's maybe even more than 4. It's definitely 100% spiritual. There's absolutely no way that you could say it's anything else, because you have to go there in order to understand what it means to be completely wrong about everything that you ever thought was real or possible. Because when you go there, your mind is completely clear. It's just presented with a whole different set of realities that are so difficult to bring back that it's almost impossible to... I don't even know where I'm going to start with what happened to me today, but anyway, this being was at the back of the room, and it came towards me, and as it came towards me, it shifted and just became so big, and it had millions of pieces that were all moving at the same time, and it was changing shape until it filled this room, and it just came at me. And I opened my eyes thinking that I could get away from it, and when I opened my eyes I realised that the whole room was now this room that I was in. So this silver room, but it was kind of just like translucent over the top of everything that I was looking at. So I knew I was safe in a sense. It made me cry. It made me cry. Well, today, so these things happen, you can find 1,000,001 different types of explanation of what the realm is like on a low dose. But you don't really get people trying to explain a breakthrough. Normally they just say, I can't explain it. But I think that I'm going to be able to explain this. I reckon I can explain this. And I definitely know that I can remember it. But whether or not the way that I explain it comes across the way that it was, or whether you get caught on my words and sort of associate what you would associate with these words for your life and miss the point, or not, I don't know. But there's this guy, his name's Roberto Black, and he's got a video on Facebook, and it's called 100 milligram DMT experience or experiment or something, and this guy took way too much. And I used to look at this video and just go, surely it can't be that bad, because everything that I was trying to understand about what he was saying was linked to this world. And he was saying, holy shit, you do not want to go this high, you don't need to know what's behind that door, and you'll be thankful that you're alive, right? Now I used to look at that video and think that I knew what he was talking about. I thought, oh, he's a little bit scared. Who could possibly conceptualize these things, and la la la. Well, just watch his video for the warning. You know, just watch his face, and he recorded it straight after. Watch his face. Forget about what he's actually saying, and just take the core of what he's saying about the warning and take it really seriously, because he has done an amazing job at explaining the power of what's possible. But I'll explain what happened today. So I took 60 milligrams of DMT into a pipe, and I smoked all of it in one go. And I was laid on my sofa, and I had my head to the side like this, and I started to feel the wave of the DMT experience overtake me, and I still had it in my head. I was like, right, I'm kind of merging with this world now, more than I ever have done before, but I still could feel myself on the sofa. I could feel my legs, I could feel my arms on my chest, and I could hear the music on the computer completely clearly, right? And the way that I would describe it is that there was a place, and in this place there was some form of a being that didn't have a body that you would call human. It had a body that you would call fractal, and it was opaque. It wasn't like light, it was like opaque. It was as if somebody had made an animation out of flat pieces of Moroccan tile. Anybody that's done DMT can explain that these flat pieces of Moroccan tile are anything but lifeless. And there was a flashing light at the back of this space with a mandala shape in it, which stayed throughout, this flashing light. There was a being that was blue and grey, and it was almost as if it was the circus ringmaster with a hat and a coat and tails, but it had nothing to do with that. It looked nothing like that. It's just that there was a sense of this being a carnival type thing, and it was moving. The dimension around it was moving with its arms like this, and in the middle of this movement there were shapes appearing that were like symbolic shapes of all manner of mind-blowing descriptions, but everything was moving at lightning speed, and it was falling away, and as it fell away it would fall away into a three-dimensional room. And at one point I remember there was a head in this room, a grey head, and I was looking down as if I was looking down into another room, and all the floor had been ripped up in this room, and I was looking down, and in that room there was a head, and layers of the head fell away, and so it was like peeling an onion. There was no brain or blood or anything like that. It was like a plastic form, and it was peeling away like an onion. And it was just like, it was basically, what was being demonstrated to me was that anything could be imagined by this being. So much so that it almost defied belief as a human being that anything could come up with, that you could even imagine it. I mean, when people say, oh, it's all in your imagination, and I don't know, I really don't know if it's possible for a human being to just imagine something like that, because you could imagine maybe a fraction of a second of it and stretch it out over an hour and turn it into art, or, you know, Salvador Dali painting or something like that. But the speed and depth and intricacy and power of it, so there was this, the video got cut off, but there was this, I'm looking down, I'm laid there on my side, and I was aware that I was kind of slightly merging into this realm, but I'm looking down, and I see this head, and this head kind of slides back in layers, and this whole space was basically, it was all about layers. It was like saying, look at the layers of a human being, look at the layers of yourself, look at the layers of reality, look at the layers of interactions with other people, look at the layers of this person that you're talking about, and look at the layers to yourself. And nothing is simple, but it was just mind-blowing expressions of concepts and thoughts and imagery. Very, very powerful imagery that some of the most profound art that I've ever seen seems to be directly expressed out of this realm. It's almost like sometimes you see shades of something. Well, when you go to this DMT realm, you see the source of all those things in the world that are of that type of experience. All of the types of art that work on your subconscious and things like that, they're all there, manifest. It's almost like into this world comes drips of information from a bigger reality. And it becomes our art, and it becomes our thinking, and it becomes our joyful expression of the imagination. But it actually comes directly from a source where that kind of thing is just the language. It's the language of that world is symbolic. The structure of that world is symbolic. But anyway, so that was one. And then I thought, I reckon I can handle going a bit deeper. And I loaded up the pipe with, this time, another 60 milligrams. And most people do like 30 or 25 or something, but I loaded it up with 60. And I started to smoke it, and I thought I was ready for it. And I smoked it all down, and then I started to see this realm approaching, but I realised that maybe it wasn't going to be as strong as it had been before. So I tipped the pipe upside down, and I started to heat it up, and I just saw smoke coming again. I thought I'd smoked it all, but I saw smoke coming again. And I started to inhale it and inhale it, and in my mind's eye, back in my mind, I knew that there shouldn't be this smoke coming, because I thought I'd smoked it all, so therefore this must be from before. So now I'm thinking maybe I've got 100 milligrams in this pipe. But I was like, at this point I was like, I'm just going in, I'm just going to go for it. I can handle this, I know what to expect. More of the same, of these symbolic layers, and just almost like a room upon room upon room upon room of detailed symbolic language falling away and moving around. And as I'm looking down on it, I thought it was going to be the same as that. Well, at some point I put the pipe down, I laid on my back, I was waiting for this carrier wave of information, and it didn't come. And the next thing I remembered was being not here anymore. Not here. I mean, out there, in here, it doesn't really matter. All that matters is this world was gone. My body was gone, and I was just perception. And I remember thinking to myself, do I have a body? Do I have a body? No, I don't have a body. I remember thinking at one point that I wasn't sure if I'd wet myself or not. I felt like liquid. All of me felt like I was made of liquid and wet. And I thought, oh God, maybe I've wet myself. But that was like just an afterthought, because I was so overwhelmed by what was happening that these were just barely flashes. Have I wet myself? Does it matter? No, it doesn't matter at all. Forget it. I immediately thought that this person that I'd spoke to earlier on in the day, I might not have said this in the other video because it cut off, but somebody had told me that they were interested in doing DMT, and I was saying they should. And I immediately thought that this person needed warned that you can go way out of the realms of normal on DMT, and it requires somebody with a good heart to be honest and say, there's a possibility that you could end up somewhere that you're not comfortable with, and it could really frighten you, and it could really upset you, and it may well shatter your whole worldview. And in my head, this thought was going, you see, you shouldn't just tell somebody this is a good idea. You have to give them some warning. You have to understand. It's like putting a gun in somebody's hand without ever having fired a gun yourself and saying, yeah, that's a gun, this is how you pull the trigger. And until you've really been down that corridor into the other realm, it's dangerous to say, you should try it. But anyway, here I am in this realm. It was completely black. I was completely gone from this world. And there was a perspective to this place, and I could see down the far end of this perspective seemed to be this orange being, and it was made of some form of geometry that is impossible for me to explain. But it was folding itself into itself and out of itself. It was folding. It was like a continually moving fold of time and space. It was a little bit like the film, it was sort of like the film Interstellar, where the guy is locked in the fractal representation of a child's bedroom. But instead of being still and he could move around in it, I was still and this realm was folding around me. And it wouldn't stop. It was so powerful. It was like my mind was being bent by it, trying to comprehend what was going on. But what it felt like was that my body was being continually folding. My body and mind, my psyche, my consciousness was being folded into shapes, just stretched and pulled and pushed, and I could see it visually as this kind of kaleidoscopic fractal, boom, just stretching reality into all these shapes. And I got the distinct feeling that this dimension was saying to me that A, I should treat it with respect, and B, that I could quite easily have encouraged another human being to fall into this realm without me being able to explain what was waiting for him on the other side. So I kept opening my eyes and trying to ground myself into this world, but when I opened my eyes, this world just folded and pushed me back inside itself into this black realm. And over again, over and over again, I kept opening my eyes as if I was going above the water in the sea, like, and then it would pull me back in. And when I was there, it was just like, there was a strong possibility that I could have actually wet myself, because the power of what I was seeing was enough to really make you frightened. I mean, uncomfortable in a sense. Uncomfortable with everything, with what your body was doing, with how the fact that you didn't have a body. At one point I remember saying, am I me? Am I me? And then this realm took me and folded me inside itself and expressed me through itself and then pushed me out, and I came back out of it and I saw myself separate from the being. And then every time I thought, yeah, that's the being and this is me, it was going, really? And it was pulling me back in again, and I couldn't tell the difference between me and the mind of this higher power in this black space. I think I covered what I missed in the break in the video, so it should go on to back to the other video, but I'll just let it go. It was the single most profound experience of my entire life, and it made every single psychedelic experience, no matter how powerful, pale into insignificance. It was literally like being a caveman at the side of a NASA space station. It was like being deaf for your entire life and then being exposed to a philharmonic orchestra at full volume immediately after you received the ability to hear. It was like being a glass full of water and every atom of that water could perceive as one glass of water, being thrown into the sea and merging with every other atom in the sea, but still experiencing it as one atom, even though you were just now millions of atoms cast aside in all directions, and then suddenly out of nowhere coming back together, remembering it all, and being left in one piece at the side of the sea, and trying to tell you what it was like is like trying to fit all of the sea into a thimble with your bare hands. It just is impossible. But it is as profound gets. And I don't know whether it's even valuable what I'm telling you. But my concept of the possibility of God and the God mind, and what kind of mind can manifest for its own pleasure everything that is, that we know of, and all the different intricate interactions that every living creature has had with another one, and every conversation and every thought and every concept and every sound and just everything that has ever happened to anything ever in the history of time and beyond time and in the future, all that ever was or will be, coming from one mind that in effect is everything. Like, all of this is for the pleasure of a supermind. I think I'm finally beginning to understand what God could be. But even then, it's so fucking bizarre to try and comprehend it as a human being that maybe it's just best to say, well, I'm happy that I don't understand. But I do feel very, very, very strongly spiritual now. And I think that I've heard terms mentioned in the Bible or in stories about the Bible where God says, you'll never be able to look at my face. I'm sure I've heard somebody mention something about you can never see the true face of God, because as a human being you would not be able to cope with it. You would cease to exist, or it would be too much, or you would surely die or something. I don't know how far you can go from being a human being into that experience before it's so far that you couldn't come back. But it only took 60, 70 milligrams of a smoked substance from a plant to put me on the other side of some universal barrier with the mind, and I'm under absolutely no illusions at all. There is zero, I'm an ex-atheist, right? There is absolutely zero feeling in me that what I experienced wasn't the mind of God. And people are afraid to use the term God because of all the Christian connotations and all that. All these people that are into the secret, and they say that, this was manifest by the universe. Well, the universe is intelligent. The oversoul is intelligent. God, whatever the hell it is so intelligent that it would require you to die before you could even understand what the fuck was going on. you'd have to stop being human in order to get even close to understanding what that is. But it's not like, oh, and then I saw these wispy colours. It's like a really fully high definition presentation of intelligence to the magnitude that is almost impossible to believe. It's actually scary in a sense to be exposed to something so intelligent and so unusual and so difficult to comprehend as that. It's scary in the sense that it feels like you might just break. But at the same time, I never came close to breaking. I'm surprised that a human being can experience that without breaking, but they can. And I feel like it was one of the very, very, very best experiences of my entire life, because it frees me up from thinking that I know it all, and it makes me just wonder at the magic and beauty of life and what it means to be a human being. So I just ramble, trying to get as much information out as possible before it fades and I stop believing that it ever actually happened. You can't get anywhere near this with meditation. There's no way that anything comes close. And I guess it's why they call it the spirit molecule, and why they call psilocybin mushrooms flesh of the gods. For some reason, in this reality, there are plants which have evolved alongside us with keys in that allow us to see beyond the physical reality. And unless you've taken them, you'll never be able to understand what people who have taken them are talking about. And if you push that window with DMT to the high doses, you almost won't be able to explain it to yourself. That's a good explanation. It can become so powerful that you can't even explain it to yourself. You can only remember the tiny little sensations that you are able to hold on to. I can see that place in my mind, but only in 2 dimensions, and maybe 3. I can't tell you, as a human being in a 3-dimensional world with 1 dimension of time, what it was like. I can only create as many metaphors as I possibly can so that somewhere in the middle the shape of what happened to me emerges. But there will be people out there who have experienced what I'm talking about. And I'm grateful that I'm one of those people. And I just wish I knew people in real life, not on the internet. I wish I had friends who I could share this with. I wonder what it would be like with 3 or 4 people having a conversation about a breakthrough experience. Dunno. Anyway, back to the other video, which probably will sound like it's repeating itself now. So if you've seen that film Interstellar, where the guy is kind of, like he's stuck in space in this sort of fractal representation of his own kid's bedroom. It was kind of like that, but as in I was gone in this black space. And I'm telling you, like, we're not talking like a black space in the middle of your mind. We're talking, and we're not talking about like if you close your eyes and it becomes black. We're talking about black space as in zero, nothing, far away from any connection to this world, just 0 point infinity blackness with this orange being, and it was bending and shifting and folding that dimension, and I could see that dimension folding because itself was. There was one point where I couldn't tell the difference between me and this being, because there were aspects of me folded into it, and I could see myself being folded into it, and I could feel what it feels like to be. Let's just say if you got a bowl, and the bowl was this realm, and on the bottom part of the bowl, filled in this glass bowl, was like white paint, and on the top of this realm, on top of this white paint, there was a thin layer of red treacle, whatever, red paint, and that red paint represented your awareness and mind, and it was all laid in the way that it lays to experience this reality. Then suddenly somebody started to fold it, and you know when you see all those different patterns forming in something when it gets mixed up, that would be your awareness, but you would still be aware. You'd still totally understand that you were a human being, but you had been folded into another dimension and then popped back out again as that top layer again. And it was so profound. It was so like, oh, you've done it now. You have done it now. It was so obviously it was obviously a it was so alien to what it feels like to be a human being. But at some level, I was experiencing it as a human being. But I was powerfully shown that spiritual technology, spiritual tools, are not toys. And there's a damn good reason why shamans exist in cultures that use these things. When I was younger, I used to have these dreams where I woke up really, really suddenly, and my body was still asleep, so I was in sleep paralysis, and I used to feel like my body was put together wrong. So what I thought was my arm actually felt like my leg, and what I thought was my leg felt like my face, and it was all just twisted up. And it took me until I fully woke up, which could be a good 5 minutes of experiencing this, until it went away, and it was terrifying. But having had those experiences for years, it gave me some sort of ability to just breathe and let this thing do what it was going to do. Let this experience be what it was going to be, and I was fairly comfortable with the fact that I was being folded into different psychological shapes. But if you could understand that what I'm talking about is a real realm which at some level, thank God, we don't experience every day. But to experience now and again is pretty amazing. It's like the underlying structure of reality. But it could well be, I'm not going to rule it out, it could well be the mind of superior spiritual beings, and at this point it would be wrong of me to say that they were all, or it was benevolent. That's just my Christian residue from having a Christian family, that I find it difficult to separate myself from the concept that if there are beings that I'm aware of, it doesn't mean that they're all nice. But I'm not hurt. I was only scared because it felt alien. Like nothing could prepare you for what it feels like to have your consciousness folded in a realm which seems to be able to manifest absolutely things that are impossible for a human being to imagine. You know, I opened my eyes, and at one point it started to slow down a bit, and I was breathing so heavy like this. And in my mind I was thinking, don't let this person do this, don't let this person do this without explaining this. This video is hopefully going to be for them. They'll see it. I'll make sure they see it. And I was just breathing as if I'd been thrown off a cliff. And I was trying to steady myself so that I could hit the water in the right direction. I was going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And what I was thinking as I was saying oh my God was, yeah, I know there is a God. Because I've just been in the mind of the thing, and it made me very humble. But also, like, I was thinking to myself as an artist, photographer, you know, like thinker, I was thinking, I have to try and allow this. Because when I went into it the first time, I was saying, come into me and fill my mind full of inspiration and make me a better person. Allow me to let go of these feelings of sadness or regret, or just allow that to just go. And let me experience freedom from my own mind. Help me, you know, to come in and just dissipate anything that's negative. The second time, and I was thinking, God, I wish I could pull this out and put it into some sort of art. But I kind of said, you know, infuse me, fill me full of this stuff, fill me full of the kind of inspiration that makes Salvador Dali make paintings, or, you know, David Lynch films, you know, like fill me full of whatever this essence is. Allow it to just course through my own mind and come out as an expression. I want to express a fraction of what I've just seen expressed. The second time, I mean, I can vaguely remember it, but it was so out there. Probably the only thing I can remember is, God, I wouldn't want to stay there, because it was just so unusual. Like, a human being lives in this world. The spirits live in that world, and at some point maybe they connect, and who knows what they are. Or I mean, I'll tell you something, like it makes things like traveling to other planets to see if there's life seem absolutely ridiculous. If every single person that was involved in the NASA space program smoked 100 milligrams, which is high, of DMT, I think they would radically change their perception and understanding of what it means to try and find life in the universe. I think that they would see us as machines within which the consciousness can travel the universe using technology that has evolved at the side of us in plants somehow. Because if you believe, and if you're religious, like you know, if you're scientific and you believe in the quantum realm, then anything really is possible, and there are certain you know, compounds on Earth that are in the plants that can just show that realm in such perfect detail that you can travel to it. You don't need to like measure it with a machine. You can travel there with your own mind. And if you're religious and you believe in the spirit world, there is no more precise way to visit it and have all of your atheism just put in a bag and just throw it over your shoulder. It's the word atheist to me now seems just like a word like stubborn, atheism, stubbornness, atheism, a refusal to accept, to believe in things that you can't prove, and at the same time refuse to try and prove because you don't believe there's anything to prove in the first place. That kind of logic. And people might say, oh, you know, well, you just took a drug, you just took DMT, it's just a drug, what do you know? It's fine. I challenge anybody who would like to prove that there is no spirit realm or no deeper, I don't even know what to call it, I really don't know what to call it, let's just say another place beyond this place. But if you'd like to prove it wrong, you should try DMT, but maybe you shouldn't just try DMT. It's not like you can just try it and go, oh, I'll just try this, you know, and I'll see if there's any truth to this, you know, like, you just can't help but be utterly changed. And I seem quite kind of calm about this, but deep down inside, there's a part of me that is only calm because I've got used to it. Like watching a comedy film for the 15th time, it's not so funny anymore, but you still appreciate that it is funny, and you know why everybody else is laughing, but you just don't laugh anymore because you're used to it. I kind of feel used to this place, but I wasn't used to this final destination. This last bit was beyond anything. I can genuinely say that there will be never another experience in my life, unless it's the similar kind of one, that will ever take me to something so profound ever again. And the only reason I'm making this video is maybe to get it off my chest, maybe as a warning, maybe as a challenge to myself to see if I can articulate something so out there. When you think about spirits and the spirit realm, don't think about kind of things with bodies that have a personality that is different from the thing that's next to them, or just think about it in terms of a concept that on one level manifests visually, but this concept actually becomes infused with you, as if you get turned into a set of numbers which then get thrown into an equation, and that equation continually just starts to spin off into infinity, and there's a visual, symbolic language to it, but it's beyond anything you can put into words. That's what a DMT breakthrough is. I don't think I did a very good job of explaining it, but the residual memory is in me that says that maybe that is enough. Maybe that's as far as a human being can go in to explain something that ideally you have to experience. And I heard this description of that sort of concept, which was that the mystical experience is like being in the center of a volcano spitting fire in all directions. And the further away you get away from that fire, the further away you travel from that fire that burns and is intense, and you feel it throughout your whole being, and you know it's raw and visceral and alive and real and undeniable. The further away you get from that mystical experience into descriptions like religion, the more the molten lava solidifies into being rock. First hot rock, smouldering, and then hot rock, no more smoke, and then it starts to cool down until it becomes a stone that somebody can place in your hand and say, this is our experience of the divine. This is what it means. But it's long since lost its significance and meaning, and it's just a symbol pointing at something else. And whoever handed you that rock is trying to get you to understand what it feels like in the middle of the volcano. And quite often those people present themselves as priests. And they say, well, you can't experience what this felt like, but if you read this book, or if you talk to this person, or if you follow these particular practices, you'll get an idea of what it was like, and that's all you need to know. Well, DMT is stepping into the fire, into the volcano, and nobody is going to be able to help you, or support you, or tell you what it's like, or anything, because it has to be experienced with your own consciousness. And sure, like having somebody there who knows what it's like is a great help, and shamans and all the rest of it. I'm not going to write them off, because I imagine if they do this kind of thing all the time with ayahuasca, they must just be absolutely cool with that realm. But it just makes me have the utmost respect for how brave they must be, and how compassionate they must be to want to ferry people across in their arms, you know, and pull them back in one piece. What a deep sacrifice for a human being to make, to be the guide between worlds. Yeah, I've got a lot of thinking to do about life. But what a fantastic experience being alive is.